here's our review for the upcoming test. And I'm just going to give a brief little overview, some things that I think it would be helpful to write just at the top of your page right here. So it's going to be over surface area and volume. So surface area, I'm going to abbreviate surface area. In our formula chart, we have some missing information that we'll see come up. We have capital P's, capital B's, H's, and R's. So just a reminder that this is capital P is not just perimeter, but the perimeter of the base. For capital B, we have the area of the base. This is the height of the prism. And R is obviously the radius of of the circle. So then we also have volume that we've looked at and will be on the test. So in our volume formulas, we have capital B's and H's. So capital B is the same as going to be the area of the base. And the H is the height of the object, okay? And then we also have R, which is the radius of the object. So just a reminder, these are the things that need to be inputted for our formulas. And another reminder is that when you are solving for these, we're going to be using the formula substitute solve. So formula substitute solve. So as we do that, that's going to be our procedure. Sorry. So number one, we are looking for the total surface area of a rectangular prism. So for a rectangular prism, so I'm going to move, so all of this right here is going to go away, but it should be written on your paper. So I'm going to scroll up so that I have more room to work this. So total surface area of a rectangular prism. So our formula is going to be surface area equals the perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. So what we're going to do is start by shading our base. So as I shade my base, and then I just shaded a rectangle, so I'm going to redraw and label what I just shaded. So I see a 4, which would mean a 4 was on the other side, and a 2 and a 2. So this is my base. And so our missing information is the perimeter of the base, the area of the base, and the height of the prism. So the perimeter of the base, that's going to be going by adding all of these up. So 4 plus 2 plus 4 plus 2 will give us 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. The area of the base is going to be base times height, 4 times 2. Which is going to be 4 times 2, which is 8. And then the height of the prism, remembering, so if I were to shade, so see how I'm shading this other side, the height of the prism is the number that connects your two bases that I just highlighted there. So this height here is going to be 4. So now we have all of our missing information and we can substitute accordingly. So we have the perimeter of the base is 12. Times the height of the prism, which is 4, plus 2 times the area of the base, which was 8. So when we substitute, put all of those into our calculator, 12 times 4 plus 2 times 8, we get a surface area equals 64 inches squared. So that is where 64 inches squared. All right, moving to number 2. We are looking for, at a triangular prism, and we're looking for total surface area. So our formula, substitute, solve. We have the total surface area, which is surface area equals the perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. So first, we're going to start by shading my base. I'm going to actually do it with this yellow just so that you guys can see through it. With a pencil, it would be okay. But we have our base, which is a triangle. That's why it's a triangular prism. So I'm going to take, so this 5, 5, and 5 are on the outside. So 5, 5, and 5. And then we have to remember that this here, this 4.3, this is our height. So we see that this 4.3 is our height of our triangle. So our missing information, P, B, and H, perimeter of our base, area of our base, and height of our prism. So to find perimeter, we're going to add this up. 5 plus 5 plus 5 is going to be 15. And then the area of our base, so we're looking at a triangle. Triangle area is 1/2 base times height. So what we'll do is take 5 and 4.3. So I'm going to just say 1/2 times the base, which is 5, times the height, which is 4.3. So 5 times 4.3 times 0.5. So this gives us 10.75. And then the height of our prism, so the height of our prism here is 14. And that gives us our numbers to substitute in. So we have S equals 15 times 14 plus 2 times 10.75. So what we can do here, 15 times 14 plus 2 times 10.75. So we get a surface area of 231.5 inches squared. All right. So number 3. Also finding total surface area. So we have formula, substitute, solve. We have the surface area equals the pH plus 2b. So our missing information is P, B, and H. So I'm going to highlight my base. So we see here, I'm highlighting it in, you can shade it with your pencil. I'm just highlighting it so you can see through. So when I redraw my base, what I like to do is redraw the base turned around so it looks like this. So when I redraw my base, it's going to be here, here, and here. So that little red line, so if I were to draw just like in the picture, if I draw my line in my right angle, okay, so we have 10 along the base. So if you notice here, this number here is the same as this number here, 10, and then we have 5 on this side, and then 8 on the other side, with 4 in the middle. So the perimeter is going to be walking around 8 plus 5 plus 10. Which gives us 23. And then the area of the base, remembering that it's 1/2 times the base, which is 10, times the height, which is 4, and gives us 20. And the height of the prism, so the height of the prism is the number that connects our two bases, which is 8. So now we can substitute those numbers in. So we have S equals 23 times 8 plus 2 times 20. So 23 times 8 plus 2 times 20. So that gives us a surface area, total surface area of 224 yards squared. All right, those are our first three. Number 4. Number 4, we're looking for volume of a cylinder. So I'm going to go ahead and, so again, if I were to shade my base, it's this circle here. So shade my base, redraw my base, and label it. So we have this here. So we're looking for volume. So formula, substitute, solve. We have the volume of a cylinder, which is V equals capital BH. So our volume formula, so we have to find, in order to find big B, remember from the top, area of the base, which is pi radius squared. So now we're going to have pi times 12 squared times the height of the height, which is 7. So then we have pi times 12 squared times 7 leads us to a volume of 3,166 I was seeing if they're rounding, 0.725, so 7.3. And that's going to be centimeters cubed. Okay. Number 5, we're looking for lateral surface area of a cylinder. So lateral surface area of a cylinder is surface area equals 2 pi radius times the height. So we have our base here. This is our base. So if I were to redraw that base, it's a circle, and they give us a diameter of 16. So if the diameter is 16, the radius is going to be half of that, which is 8. And then the height here, the height is 6. So then we can substitute 2 times pi times 8 times 6. So 2 times pi times 8 times 6. That gives us a surface area of 301.59. And that's meters squared because we are finding lateral surface area. Okay, and then on number 6, we're looking for total surface area. So that formula, substitute, solve here, we have surface area equals 2 pi radius height plus 2 pi radius squared. So we're needing a radius and a height. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight my base, or you guys could shade it. And so if I were to redraw that, the number they give us is 12, which is our diameter. 12 is the diameter, and that means our radius is going to be half of that, which is 6, and the height is 10. So we have surface area equals 2 times pi times 6 times 10 plus 2 times pi times 6 squared. 2 pi times 6 times 10 plus 2 pi times 6 squared. So you should get 603.19, and that's feet squared. All right, so we're looking for the volume of each cone or sphere. So for the volume of a sphere, we have 4/3 pi radius cubed. So we need the radius, which is given to us here. So 4/3 times pi times 6 cubed. So in your calculator, alpha y equals 4/3 pi which gives us the volume of 904.778. And that's going to be inches cubed. Number 8, we have V equals 4/3 pi radius cubed. And our radius is 7. So we can go 4/3 pi times 7 cubed. So that gives us a volume of 1,436.76, and that's centimeters cubed. Number 9, we have another sphere, so formula substitute solve. We have the volume is 4/3 pi radius cubed. So we need a radius, but they gave us a diameter, so we're going to have to make sure to cut that in half. So half of that would be 9. So we have V equals 4/3 pi 9 cubed. Which leaves us with a volume of 3,053.63 meters cubed. So those 7 through 9 are pretty straightforward. On number 10, we're looking for the volume of a cone, which is, the formula we're looking for is V equals 1/3 capital BH. Then remembering that capital B is the area of the base, so I'm going to shade my base. So my base is this. Here, if I redraw it, I have a radius of 5. So to find pi radius squared, it's going to be 1/3. So our substitution, we have pi times 5 squared, and then we need to multiply that times the height. So if that's my height, times 12. So pi times 5 squared times 12 will give you a volume of 314.16 miles cubed. Number 11. So we're looking for the volume of a cone. So just like the last one, B equals 1/3 capital BH. So remembering that B is the area of the base. So our base is a circle, so we have a circle. And the number they give us here is 18, but for pi radius squared, we need to cut that in half. So the radius is just going to be 9. So in our formula, we'll do 1/3 times pi times 9 squared times the height. Again, we have this height here, 18. So into your calculator, we'll go pi times 9 squared times 18 times 1/3. we get V equals 1,526.81, and that is yards squared. Number 12, we have another volume, so we have formula, substitute, solve. We have V equals 1/3 capital BH, and we go ahead and remembering that here's our base, redraw the base, we have a radius of 7, so pi radius squared is going to be what big B is, so we'll go 1/3 times pi times 7 squared times the height, which is 14, and that's this here, this height here, 14. And from there we go pi times 7 squared times 14 times 1/3. Gives us a volume of 718.377, which would be 718.38, and that's centimeters cubed. Okay, now we're going to go to number 13. So this says to find the volume of the cone or cylinder with the given base circumference and a height, use 3.14 for pi. So rather than the pi button, we're going to be using 3.14. So this is going to be a new concept. So there, I'm going to go ahead and just draw a little. So we have a cylinder here. And the cylinder that they give us here is, we have a circumference of 12 pi. So remembering that the circumference is the measurement around the circle. So if circumference equals 2 pi, and what we're going to have to notice here is that on the formula chart, we see that circumference equals 2 pi r. That's the formula that they give you. So if we have a C and a C, we should be able to set those equal to each other so we can solve for r. So if we have 12 pi equals 2 pi r, we now only have one unknown variable, which is the radius, so we can do a simple two-step or one-step equation by dividing both sides by 2 pi to keep it balanced. So 2 pi divided by 2 pi is just 1, and then the pi's cancel out or become 1, so then we just are left with 12 divided by 2, which is 6, so we have our radius equals 6. And that's what they were looking for. So now we can use that to find the volume of the cone or cylinder. So formula, substitute, solve. We're looking for V equals capital BH. So we just found out that this base has a radius of 6. So remembering that capital B is the area of the base, and so that's pi radius squared. So pi times 6 squared times the height. So they didn't give us the height, so let's just go ahead and stop there. So pi times 6 squared times the height, and that will be good. So let's try another one. Oh, they did give us a height, sorry, right here. Base circumference and a height of 9. So this is going to be, the height is going to be 9. So let me go ahead and erase that. And they also told us to use 3.14 for pi. So 3.14 times 6 squared times 9. So from there, 3.14 times 6 squared times 9. We get our volume is 1,017.36. And that's centimeters cubed. Okay, we have a cone with a base circumference of 6 pi. So they told us again, just before I forget, we have a height of 9. So we're going to do the same thing. So we know our circumference is 6. We know our circumference in the problem is 6 pi. And we also know that on the formula chart it says 2 pi r. So since we have two c's, we can set them equal to each other. So 6 pi equals 2 pi r. And then we have our one missing number or variable, which is r. So we can divide both sides by 2 pi. This becomes just r, and we're left with pi divided by pi is 1. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that's our radius. So the radius here is 3. And then we can formula substitute solve from there. We have v equals 1/3 capital BH. And remembering that capital B is the area of the base, so that's going to be pi times 3 squared times 9. And I just remembered they told us to use 3.14 for pi, so 3.14. So 3.14 times 3 squared times 9 times 1/3 is 84.78 inches cubed. And the last one, we have a cylinder. So again, our height is going to be 9, and they told us that our circumference is 25.12, and we know that our circumference from the formula chart is 2 pi r. So we're going to set those equal to each other to solve for r. So 25.12 equals 2 pi r. So we're going to divide both sides by 2 pi. So this will become on the right side 1, and then we're left with the radius of, so 20, we're going to have to, 2 point, here we go. That becomes 1, and we're left with just the radius. And then on this side, we're going to have to substitute that 3.14 for pi, since they told us to use 3.14 for pi. So we'll do 25.12 divided by 2 times 3.14, which is 6.28. And that gives us, I thought we were going to get a decimal, but we just got a radius of 4. So from here, formula substitute solve for a volume of a cylinder. And we go, capital B is the area of the base, so 3.14 times 4 squared times 9. 3.14 times 4 squared times 9. We get a volume of 452.16. All right, now we're up to some old stuff. So we're going to do the Pythagorean, so we're finding the missing side of the right triangle. So I'm going to go kind of fast. So we have our a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So remembering that this across from the right angle is going to be c, and then a and b are interchangeable. So we have 11.1 squared plus 13.7 squared equals c squared. That's what we're finding. So in your calculator, we can do 11.1 squared plus 13.7 squared. And that gives us 310.9 equals c squared. And then remember that to unsquare something, we have to take the square root of that number. And then we get c equals 17.6. Okay. Number 17, we have, so we're looking for A or B. So this is C. Let's go A, B. So if we did a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We said a was 11.6 squared plus b squared equals 13.9 squared. So 11.6 squared. So what I'm going to do is minus 11.6 squared from each side. So that becomes 0, and we're left with b squared equals, and then I'm just going to put into my calculator 13.9 squared minus 11.6 squared. And that gives us 58.65. And remembering that that's squared, so we're going to have to take the square root of that number. And that leaves us with b equals 7.65, which is 7.7. So that makes most sense because it can't be larger than c. And our last Pythagorean one, so we're also looking for another leg, so this is c. So if we did a squared plus b squared equals c squared, a squared is, so I'm just going to say a, b, so we have 12.4 squared plus b squared equals 13.2 squared. So I think it's easiest to just subtract 12.4 squared from both sides. You could also simplify those before you started doing it, but b squared equals, so 13.2 squared minus 12.4 squared. That leaves us with b squared equals 20.48. And then taking the square root of both sides, we get 4.5 as our b. Okay. Number 19, we get, so we're looking at a transformation, and this is going to be a dilation, which is when it gets bigger or smaller. So we need to look, remembering that this is the pre-image, and this is the image, so it's getting smaller. So it is a reduction. So reductions have a scale factor of less than 1. So we need to look at our answer choices here. So this has a scale factor of less than 1. This would mean this is a enlargement. Remember that this number and this number need to be the same, and they're not. And then this is a translation, so meaning it would stay the same size. So that leaves us with that one. Okay, on number, whatever number this is. So we have the blue is our image, the black is our pre-image. And the blue is our image. So this is an enlargement. And this enlargement is going to take you with a scale factor, or k, that is greater than 1. So these need to be the same, and they're not. So 2 and 4, these need to be the same, and they're not. An enlargement looks like that one, and this would be a reduction. So you need to be able to identify those. And our last problems we have here are some interest problems. So formula, substitute, solve. We have Isabella deposited $400 in a savings account that earned 5% simple interest for 10 years. How much will be in the account at the end of 10 years? So formula is simple interest, I equals PRT. So our interest is going to be the principal amount, which is 400, times the rate, which is 5%, and we need to divide that by 10, divide that by 100, so 0.05, and the time that it's in the account is 10 years. So when you substitute those in, so 400 times 0.05 times 10, we get 200. and that's just the interest. So what in the problem they're asking for the how much will be in the account at the end of 10 years. So this is just the interest. So in order to find the total, we're going to have to add the total amount. We're going to have to take 200 plus 400 and get 600. All right, so then Gus deposited $300 in a savings account that earns 7% interest compounded annually for 10 years. How much will be in the account at the end of 10 years? So this is, we're looking at compound interest, which our formula reads A equals the principal times 1 plus the rate to the t power. So when we substitute this in, we're going to have our principal amount, which is 300, times 1 plus 0.07 raised to the 10th power. So when we put that in our calculator, 300 and then parentheses 1 plus 0.07 raised to the 10th power, we get the total amount of $590.15. Okay, so this is already the total amount. We don't have to add anything. And 24 says, using problems 22 and 23, who will have more money and by how much? So we have $600 minus $590.15, and we can get a total of $9.85. So, and that's going to be who has more is Isabella. All right, that's it. Good luck on your test.